I have completed my outline and I'm ready to write the rough draft. But first, let's go over this outline that I've completed together. Okay, so as you recall, one of the attractions that I was going to feature was the museum, the oil field museum of Central Texas, and I took it out of this section of attractions and I moved it into the history section. It's out of place, but it goes over here in this section. So that way I have enough room to talk about the attractions of, I told you, I told you that as soon as I went to Holly D's, I was going to get somebody on the phone, and I did. We talked for almost an hour, and I'm going to commission a quilt from them. So it was a wonderful conversation. And that's in the attractions, and then everything's kind of, I threw the images in here, knowing that whenever I get ready to write the essay, I'll move the images into their right and proper place. But you can see that the images are, the same color scheme. You see that? See how we just have the same basic color scheme in all the images, except these kind of earthy ones. That's all right. And then this one, when it went from this to this. It's a 5,000 person town, so I think it's neat to show what it looked like when it was first discovered as an oil field. Now, I want to write with you the thesis sentence so you can learn once and for all how to write a thesis sentence. It goes right here. We start the introduction with a little charm, with a little bit of a fact, and then we have the thesis statement, and then we have the transition statement. Right? This is a transition statement because it mentions the rich history. What is the reader getting ready to read about? That's right, the rich history. Okay, so we are going to incorporate each of the sections into the thesis statement. Okay, so first we're going to start by writing something about this town in a general nature. Okay, here's my thesis sentence. Let's highlight it real quick so you can see how this happens. Yellow's easiest to read. Okay, when I grew up in West Texas, Luling was considered a favorite spot for tourism, featuring an ever-changing history. What is it that we read first in this essay? The history. Chronicled by the local Central Texas Museum. When do we talk about the museum? Right here in the history. Right here. So it goes history of the town, museum, museum. Then we have the attractions. Remember, we have Zedler's Mill and we have Holly D's. Okay, so in the thesis sentence, we have attractions such as Zedler's Mill and Holly D's Quilt Shop, and crowned by the watermelon thump. That sentence tells the reader everything the reader needs to know about what they are going to be presented. Yeah? That's how a thesis sentence goes. And I usually write the thesis sentence. I have a rough draft at the beginning, and then I finish that after I finish the outline, because then I can see the order that I place things. Because as you can see, I moved the museum to the end of the history section. And if I'd have written the thesis sentence before then, at one time, it was down here in attractions. But I kept it to the two attractions, Zedler's Mill and Holly D's, and moved the Oil Patch Museum up to the history section. And that changes my thesis statement, doesn't it? So that's how you write a thesis statement. There's a first introductory few words that indicates what the essay is about, and that's followed by what they're going to see in the sections of the essay. Ever-changing history, chronicled at the Central Texas Museum, attractions such as Zedler's Mills and Holly D's Quilt Shop, and crowned by the watermelon thump. Those are each of the sections of this little essay. And now you can see in here where I have placed, this is information that has been collected. And each time I put something in, I added where it was from. And I will be filling all of this information in with my own original content. And because we're not just going to go from one quote to the next, to the next, to the next. It all needs to be couched in my original content, which I'll show you in the rough draft. And down here is my phone call with Denise Green of Holly D Quilts. And each time I used one of her quotes throughout the essay, I put it in blue so I know I've already used it. And I have her in the conclusion. I have her up in the quilting section. I have her at the watermelon thump. I had a nice conversation with her, and I was able to use her quotes in 3 or 4 different places in the essay. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to show you. This is the watermelon thump, and I wanted to include Miss Thump, which is a huge thing, and the watermelon judging contest, and the parade. One of the things I'm not happy about is that in here I don't really have anybody eating the watermelon, except that title image that I was going to use uses that up front. So that gives me 4 images just of the watermelon thump, and I think that's going to be plenty. And then each time, every step along the way, when I found a fact, I put something in here. Denise was the one who was talking about the lavender fields that are new. I wouldn't have known that they had lavender fields if I hadn't talked to Denise. So as I research the essay, I add facts to the conclusion so that by the time I'm ready to write the rough draft, the conclusion is literally already written with kind of a cute image at the end. All the little oil wells in town have these little cute little cartoon things. All right, so it looks kind of pretty. So now let's move over to the rough draft. Okay, you can see that the first 2 sentences that I've written, I've already added my stuff. I'm going to put this great big because you know me, I am likely to forget the word count. So knowing that about me, I always put that in highlighted. Okay. Blooming, Texas, a watermelon welcome. San Antonio is surrounded by darling little towns, each with its own culture and attractions. In Caldwell County, Texans boast of the ever-changing Luling, home of the Watermelon Festival. That is all my own words. The first 2 sentences are in my own words. Now I'm going to go over to the outline, and I'm going to get this sentence that I have written, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going back over to the essay, and I'm going to paste it because that is where that sentence goes. Of course, that sentence needs to be in Times New Roman, and it needs to be in 12 font. I've already set everything for double space, which in my Word program is achieved by doing this. Okay? All right, so now that was my next sentence. And it is hard to believe that the charming town of Luling, a town where, whoop, that's redundant. That's a nice word. A place where hospitality is the order of the day was once called the toughest town in Texas. All right, that was that sentence. Somehow the formatting's off, so I got to work on that. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the margins justified, and that's all nice. Okay, now I go back to my outline. What's next? You see how beautiful it is when I have the outline? I don't have to sit down at the typewriter and just start typing hoping that something will be correct. It's already planned. I do the filler content around with the points that I'm trying to make that the quoted evidence proves for me. Okay, now we're going to put steps. Let's try museum. Go ahead and put that in there. Copy. Back over to the essay and paste. Okay, that's not where that goes. So in my program, I can go up here to picture format, and I can have it in the position. So I can still move it around. I'm going to put it over there. Okay. So now I got to clean this up. It looks messy, doesn't it? Okay, so the first thing I do is go in here. And we have to come down here where it goes. And that picture had messed some things up. So and that's going to go down here. So this goes back here. Go back over here. Highlight it all. Justify the margin. Times New Roman. 12 font. Black. Color. Okay, and stop the double space. So I just, do this when that happens. I don't get upset about it. Okay. Established in... All right. What's that? What is that? Established in 1874, Luling was a railroad stop, but the discovery of oil made Luling an overnight hub. With the discovery, that's a great spelling of discovery, isn't it? That is just fantastic. That is just... With the discovery of oil, Luling was transformed from a railroad town of 500 to an oil town of 5,000. Still doesn't go there. Toughest town in Texas. Okay, then what's next? Go back over to the... I'm not going to do this for the whole thing because it'll take forever. But let's go back to the outline. Okay. All right, now we're ready for the thesis statement. Okay. We don't need the words thesis statement. Okay, just this. That's all I want to do. Copy. Back to the rough draft. And paste. I'm going to take this off. No highlighting. Times New Roman. Lovely. It didn't do it, did it? It's there. Times 12. Okay, that's my thesis statement. And what I'm going to do is underline it. I'll take the underlining out when I do the essay, but okay. Okay, and now next, we just have what's left. What's over here in the introduction? Luling's tradition was a... this is the last sentence, was the transition sentence. Okay, so copy, back over here, and this next we have our transition sentence. I hate it when it does that. All right, though. We don't want any highlighting. We want it all in Times New Roman. All in 12. All justified margins. Double spaced. Okay, so our introduction is completed. San Antonio is surrounded by darling little towns, each with its own culture and attractions. In Caldwell County, Texans boast of the ever-changing Luling, home of the Watermelon Festival. It is hard to believe that the charming community of Luling, a place where hospitality is the order of the day, was once called the toughest town in Texas. That quote came from Texascapes. Established in 1874, Luling was a railroad stop, but the discovery of oil made Luling an overnight hub. With the discovery of oil, Luling was transformed from a railroad town of 500 to an oil town of 5,000. That came from the Luling Museum site. When I grew up, here comes our thesis. When I grew up in West Texas, Luling was considered a favorite spot for tourism, featuring an ever-changing history chronicled in the Central Texas Museum, attractions such as Zedler's Mill and Holly D's Quilt Shop, and crowned by the Watermelon Thump. Transition sentence, Luling's tradition as a town that boasts Texas hospitality begins with rich history. You see that? Let me make that a little bit smaller so you can see. Okay, so we see that, how easy that was to write, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences long. That's just perfect. Since they're longer sentences, should be 6 to 9 sentences at the most. Never more than 9 sentences. Lovely. Looks pretty, doesn't it? Okay, now I'm going to do the next one, and then I'm going to stop the tutorial, and if you want to see all the rest of it, you can. So just stay with me for the next one, and then I'll do one for those of you who want to watch the whole process. All right, next paragraph is what? What are we writing about next? Let's go to the thesis statement. We are writing about history. Okay, so we're going to start with a sentence in our own words because we don't want to start with quoted information. We need to look like we know something. Okay. Okay, I'm going to end this tutorial with this. Okay, this is the paragraph on the history of Texas. All right, so I've gone back and forth, as you can see, and I'm going back over to the outline now to see what else is included, and that's this Central Oil Patch Museum, and that goes over here. And then we're going to lead into, we'll need a transition sentence to lead into the attractions section. Back over here, let's put that last bit there. Okay, that's not a paragraph, it goes in here with everything. You can see it's a mess. I'm going to show you how I clean it up. Okay, and I'll type this, I'll be right back. Okay, we're getting ready to move to the attractions. So this is the thesis sentence. I mean the transition sentence that's going to go there. All right, let's look at this mess we have here. First, we need to get it all in Times New Roman and 12. And we're going to remove any hyperlinks, which is this one. We want to make sure that there's no hyperlink included anywhere. And we're going to make sure that it's all in black type. We've justified the margin, so it's nice over here. This needs to be out of font, not bold. Okay, let's just make sure that all of this is in 12 font in case anybody just got messed up in there. Now we're going to double space it, and we're ready to add our pictures. Okay, what I want you to show me is which one of these sentences, this is a lovely paragraph, isn't it? Nice, compact, gives information, moves on. What is the topic sentence of this paragraph? I want you to look at it a minute, pause the video, and just look at it and see if you can pick out which sentence is the topic sentence for this paragraph. Okay, if you chose this one, you were right. One of my favorites, Luling is a town whose identity has changed many times. We start with how big Texas is. According to a 2012 census, there are 3,300 cities and towns in the state. One of my favorite towns is, see the logic? One of my favorite towns is Luling. One of my favorites, Luling, is a town whose identity has changed many times. First change, establishes a railroad stop. Next, a second railroad is built. And it changes again when the discovery of the Luling oil field in 1922. And the oil museum tools and using the industry of the oil production technology from the past. Various artifacts and documents trace the development of the oil industry in Luling and Central Texas. Transition sentence to attractions. You see that? That's what is meant by a topic sentence. Every sentence in this essay, in this paragraph, has something to do with the change in identity. What is Luling? Who are these people? Well, they're railroad people. They also have watermelon. They have lavender fields, all kinds of things. All right, now I'm going to add my pictures that go in this paragraph. I'll be right back. I'm only going to use one picture there, and I'm going to look at what is the size. What size are we looking for our pictures? That's right, about 1.5 inches. So when we format the new picture that's going to go in this section, which is the museum, I want to come up here and I want to go to 1.5 so that everything's in just about the same order. Does that look a little bit dark to you? I'm going to go over here and corrections. I can see a number of different, I don't want it that bright. There we go. Nice. Very nice. Right there in the middle of the paragraph, just when we start talking about the museum. And I'm going to go ahead and label what this is, insert a caption, and I'll be right back. Okay, I put that in so that the reader knows what this is a picture of. There. Looks nice. I'll go back up and list those others too, but that's got to have a little bit of work, so this is going to come down a little bit. There we go. Sometimes a little space and a bit of luck will help us justify margins. So I might just do this and just see if it'll go in and justify the whole thing for me. Well, it's not going to. So just kind of, there we go. Just kind of, you know, spacers just so it looks nice. Whoops, too many. All right, be happy. All right. Now that paragraph is done. And we do the same process with the rest of the paragraphs. I'm going to go ahead and do those. And I'll have another tutorial with me completing those other paragraphs for those of you who would like to see the whole thing happen. I know I wasn't going to do the whole essay, but then I talked to Denise. And anyway, that concludes this tutorial on the rough draft.